very, very important. I don't want to talk about myself too much in this video and in this module, and just in general, I don't like it. But this is the path that I used to create my dream job and to frankly create my destiny, right? Because the way that I look at it is no one else is going to create this for you. And I mean nobody is, because it's really what's in your heart, what's in your core, what's in your soul, what's in your brain, and what you envision as an ideal life. So I realized this when I was really, really young. And again, it started from when I was within a cubicle. And that kind of brought to life that I hated this life. I can't do this for the rest of my life, right? So my dad worked retail, and he came home miserable. I mean, he worked 9 to 9. So I saw that, and I just didn't want that to be me. So I think I was like 19, right out of high school, when I came to this realization. So again, just kind of take a listen, hear what I have to say, and envision it on how it can change your life as it did mine. Because again, I'm here now because of me documenting where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do, and how I was going to make that happen. And because I say that, no one's going to do this for you. And yeah, you could hire a life coach or a business coach, or you could talk to a shrink, to kind of help you with the path. But again, nobody knows what your dream life is. And when I say dream life is what type of house do you want? What type of car do you envision? When you envision kids, do you envision taking them to a private school? And we're going to dive deep into that. I actually have a list of your perfect life. But with that said, let's get started, okay? So what do you really want, and what are your goals? For me, I've always wanted freedom of time. My time, there's nothing more valuable to me than my time. And by having that time freedom, of course, you've got to obtain financial freedom, because without financial freedom, you're not going to win your time, because you're constantly going to be trading time for money. So you're going to be working to try to get your time. You're working for somebody, they're paying you for your hours, and then you go home and you really don't own your time. So you're just trading your time for money. And I was doing that, right after college for a few of my jobs. So I realized I had to create a plan and a path. One of my favorite quotes is by my guy, Tony Robbins. He says, success is doing what you want, when you want, where you want, with whom you want, as much as you want. And I didn't get that quote until probably 4 years ago, and I'd already been living it for a good, 12, 13 years. Gary Vee says, when you get to do what you want, you've won, right? So part of the journey is finding out what you want to do. So my thought is don't spin wheels and just do these things and go through the motions to find out what you want. Well, really think about what you want and then make it happen. I mean, a lot of gurus talk about that, but I actually sat and wrote it down. What do I want to do? And I made it happen. So I live by this 100% each and every day. Before I go to bed, I make a goal list, a to-do list, and things that I have to do. And on days like today, I know I have to create videos. So yeah, I don't necessarily wake up and I couldn't get on a plane right now, because I have an obligation to my team, my business partner. So we're doing a project together. So in not all circumstances can I wake up and say, today I want to go to Atlantic City, or I just want to fly. But 95% of the time, I literally wake up and I can do whatever I want. And I've created that by design. That didn't just happen. Anybody that knows me knows I certainly was not left any money by my parents. There's just no, there's no golden nugget under the rainbow for me. It was all, done by self. I did it all by hard work. So for the past 20 years, I haven't had a boss. And again, I've awakened in the morning and said, what do I want to do today? And how can I get to the next level? And how can I continue this freedom of time and this freedom of finance? How did I get there? I hated what I did right after college. Dabbled in college, went to a couple classes here and there. No matter what I chose, it was just miserable for me. I hated it. I was always a mediocre student, and I just disliked it. So right out of college, I got a couple really good jobs because I liked technology. So I started building websites for a site called Wall Street Week with Louis Ruckhiser for Maryland Public Television. That had me in a cubicle, and I absolutely hated it. What did I hate about it? Well, let me talk about what I hated about it. So let me start. It's going to be long, so I had to take a drink, actually. Waking up early and driving an hour to work in traffic every morning, Monday through Friday. I absolutely despised that. I dreaded the night before when I had to pack my lunch and pick out my work clothes. I just made air quotes, by the way. Pick out my work clothes, and I had to make sure they were pressed and ready for the next doomsday, as I call it. Once I got to the office, I dreaded the thought of, I cannot believe that I'm actually going to be here for another 8 hours. And those hours were spent in a cubicle. It was the worst. I mean, literally, it was like a cubicle you see on TV or an office space. And in my picture, in my cubicle, I had pictures of things I called the outside world. My girlfriend at the time, or had a picture of a Lambo, and, had a picture of the beach. And it was just like, those were things like, hey, there's an outside world out of this. And it was just miserable being in there. So then what? I got a lunch. It was an hour lunch. To me, it was a glimpse of the outside world, almost like you were at jail. So I'd walk around, I'd take walks around the building, And I would look at the building from afar, and I'm like, I can't believe I got to go back in there. So it was like a jail cell. Once in there, I hated the work. I was doing website work, and it just was unfulfilling at the time, and it was very mundane. I also had a boss. He wasn't really, really nice, and he made me feel inferior, and I was always berated. And again, I was probably producing mediocre work, so I get it. But I just hated the cubicle. I hated having the boss. I hated the drive. I just hated the whole package. I hated the idea of making somebody else rich. And in this case, it was a big company, Maryland Public Television. So, it's the other small jobs that I've had. Somebody's always getting rich off of your work. So I hated that idea of making somebody else rich. And I realized that I would never get financially free if I kept this up. And again, this realization came when I was maybe 18, 19. So you're talking dabbling in college and fresh out. I had nobody to tell me that. I learned it all myself. Like I said, my dad would get home from work after working 9 to 9 at Staples, and he would be miserable, and he'd go out and cut the lawn, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she would give me the support. She was there for my sister and I. So I just didn't have that, I hate to say it, but a mentor or a guru to say, this is the path that you need. I had to envision it and build it myself, so I created where I'm at now. But in my cubicle, I had a picture of a Lamborghini. It was at the time probably the Diablo, and so I crunched numbers one day, and I was like, all right, at the current rate I'm making, which was really good money at the time, I had benefits, at the current rate that I'm earning this cash, it would be a monumental task to get that Lambo, right? And what I didn't realize at the time was, obtaining that Lambo was only the first obstacle. Since then, and I'm not saying this to brag, I'm just saying that one of my goals was to own a Bentley. I owned the Bentley. Half of owning that Bentley was the maintenance. It cost me $10,000 a year to keep that Bentley. So that's one of the things that I didn't know. So if I would have factored in, okay, it's going to cost me 80 grand to get this Lambo, I didn't add in that it was going to cost me another 10 to maintain it. So that's just one of the things that I started crunching numbers and said, all right, if I got to get to this level, I can't keep working here. So I went home, talked to my mom and dad, and said, listen, I gotta do one of two things: either keep this job or start my own thing. And my mom said, stay with the job. You're making tons of money. And Dad said, listen, if you enjoy what you're doing on the side, then do other things. So I went that path. Long story short. So anyway, so back to my day. I hated to drive home once it became time for work. For me to drive home another hour in traffic only to see the sun setting. And then once I was home, I was drained. I was miserable. I just had no juice left after a day at the office. And again, I was only 18 or 19. So that reminds me of a story. So now, I'm almost 40 years old. We have here in my agency, we have a ton of wealthy clients, and we become friends with those clients. So one day, one of my wealthy clients was walking me around his compound, showing me his, 15-car garage, his massive compound on the top of a hill in a very exclusive gated community. And I'm looking at these exotics in the garage. He's taking me around on a quad, or like the Razor, and we're exploring the grounds. And then so I look up and he says, "That's my room up there." And it had this massive balcony. And I said to him, "You must have the most amazing sunrises and the most amazing sunsets." And he said, "I never get to see the sunrise, nor do I get to see the sunset. I leave work at 4 a.m. and I probably get home about midnight every single day. And then on weekends I sleep in, and I start the journey over again the next day." So that compounded it, 15 years later, hearing that again. So, with that said, that was my unideal day. So I had to create a path, right? So, you, listening to this is what I would ask you to do. Think about your perfect ideal day in the future, okay? Think about the perfect ideal average day, every day. Not just one particularly cool day that you may think, oh, I want to go on a helicopter ride, or I want to jump from a chopper down to the Grand Canyon, or a weekend, or something like that. This is your perfect average day. What would you love to wake up and do every single day? Something that you not necessarily would get bored at, okay? This exercise is going to help us focus on two very important things. One, it's going to help you identify what you really want and who you really are, and also it's going to help you identify what your market really wants and who they really are, and if it's something that you want to do and it fits into your ideal day. Okay, so here are some really important questions you're going to need to ask yourself. And again, if you think it's hokey, just listen to it, and as I go through them, hit pause and write down your answers. We're also going to have this as a downloadable sheet as well. Okay, so I would ask you to go into a place where you're in the zone, it's quiet, uninterrupted. Turn off your phone. If the FedEx man comes to the door, tell him to get off, get away. All right, so let's get started on this, okay? So it's a very simple exercise. We're about halfway through right now. So you made it this far. You're almost there. Let's begin the exercise. All right, so where would you like to live, okay? And really think about it. Where would you like to live in the future? Do you see yourself in the city, in a high-rise? For me, I grew up in the country, so I always wanted a country compound. Lots of acreage to myself. I'm an introvert by nature. I don't necessarily like the hustle and bustle of a city. I like my privacy. And again, I was a country boy, so I like to shoot guns and ride quads. So for me, I envisioned, owning a house on acreage, preferably in the woods, on, some acreage where I can do my activities and not have to worry about anybody. So that's mine. So we'll bang through these, and I'll comment here and there. But again, so first one is, where would you like to live? What would your house look like? So again, for me, I ideally, and I don't have this now, but I'd love to have a French country or like a Tudor stone with a nice garage with the iron gates, kind of like a Castle Chateau style look. Like that's what I would like to look like. So what type of house would you like? When you envision and waking up, what house are you in? Speaking of waking up, what time would you wake up? Are you the kind of guy that burns the oil at night and is up till 3 a.m. Just working your butt off, and then you want to sleep in till 10 a.m.? Well, guess what? That's cool. We're not talking about college. We're not talking about the corporate life. We're not talking, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, this isn't for you. Like, this is, you're creating your path, you're creating your destiny. If you're a night owl by design and your body likes working at night, well, guess what? That's what we're talking about. So if you want to work, if your best time to work comes at, midnight to 3, 4 a.m., well, that's cool, right? So what time would you like to wake up? So if you like to wake up at noon, don't feel bad about that, only if you're, burning the midnight oil, working on what you're passionate about, all right? So be honest with this. What would you do in the morning? So once you awake, what would you do? And again, if you want to pause these, go ahead. For me, I have a ritual. I'm very, I have my habits, I have my creature comforts, so I have a set process that I do, whether I'm here in Florida, if I'm traveling. I travel a lot, and these rituals keep me, through the morning. They help me go. I've created them in the past 20 years. I have a little bit of Zen time. I do this thing called priming that I was taught by Tony Robbins. I have my own routine. I eat my breakfast, so I go from there. So speaking of breakfast, what would you have for breakfast? Again, what would you do in the morning? What would you have for breakfast? What does the mundane stuff look like? For example, do you have kids? Are you taking them to school? You have 4 kids? Are they in the back of your minivan? Or are you taking them to a private school in their uniforms? Like, what's the mundane stuff look like? You walking the dog? And again, really drill deep. What would you spend the first half of your day doing? Really, close your eyes and what would you spend the half of your day doing that you would enjoy? What would you have for lunch? And who would you eat your lunch with? Again, do you enjoy having the freedom to be able to eat lunch with your friends whenever you want? Most likely, if you're like me, most of the time you're going to make time to eat lunch with your friends when they're on your break. When they're on their break, you're going to fit that in, and man, it feels good to just say, when do you get your break, buddy? Let's go meet at the sushi joint. So who would you eat with? What would your friends be like? And hopefully, if you're like me, you have a lot of successful friends that go above and beyond, and that really strive to get you to the next level. Because again, I forget what the adage is, but it's something like you are who your friends are. And if all of your friends are at a level above you, or even keeled, or if they're go-getters, they're going to make you get to the next level. You're going to be competitive together. What would you guys talk about? So what would your friends be like? What would you guys talk about? I mean, a lot of people talk gossip. They talk, what was the Kardashians doing last night? If you consider that high level talk, I mean, without being rude, maybe re-examine your friends. When I eat lunch with my friends, we talk about getting to the next level. We talk about things like, and it might sound uppity, like exotic cars, homes that we like, spending time doing things that we like. We just talk about personal development. And speaking of that, what do you do for personal fulfillment? Do you give back? What do you do to feel filled? Again, if the lottery, most people that win the lottery, they go bankrupt. And the reason is they're not fulfilled. They're not giving back. They're not doing things that they like. My business partner Todd and I, we just went out to Florida for a week. The things that we did there, it's every single hour was filled with fulfillment. We walked on the beach. We both zoned out, meditated. Todd worked out, and then we went to a seminar. It was like a Tony Robbins seminar featuring Gary Vee, the Shark Tank guys. That's fulfilling. It's fulfilling to us because we're going to take that information and give back. So what life purpose would you strive towards? So again, you're going to get fulfilled, and what is that fulfillment going to do? What are you striving towards? What are you going to do with that knowledge? What secret do you have that you can give to others? This one's really direct. What would your business be? What do you enjoy? So again, you're thinking of all these things. So you got the house, you got what you're doing, what are you doing with the kids, what are you eating for lunch? What is the business? What would your business be? What do you enjoy doing? You love looking at real estate. If you're a doctor, that's cool, but you're not going to have the freedom that you would as if it was something that was a service or a product offering. What would your business be? What time would you start work? What time would you begin your work? For me, I zone out, zen out, whatever you want to call it, from like 5, 6, 7. It's doing very chill tasks. I have the whole house to myself, and then honestly, I start work about 9:30, 10. I start trickling in my emails. I start using my brain's starting to wake up. I start, what am I going to delegate today? That's what time I start work. I'm not one of those Donald Trump type guys that literally starts heavy impact at 6 a.m. What would you actually do at work? Okay, so what would you do? So again, I'm an entrepreneur, right? That's what I call myself. I employ people. People do work, and we all work together as a team. So I'm an entrepreneur. So my job is putting people in the right seats. I got a video guy. He's great at video. He's actually behind the camera today. My COO, he's great at executing, he's great at sales, he's great at marketing, he's great at operations, he's excellent at all those things. So that's, he's in the right seat. We have an operations manager that works just for the agency. It's like, what would you actually do? So I don't necessarily enjoy selling. I suck at it. I hate sales. I'm atrocious at it. I found a great salesman, and I can tell him, these are the clients that we want. This is the market we're in. Can you sell this? Yes. This day and age with ads and marketing, you have a lot of the ads do the marketing for you. So, what do you actually want to do? It's such an important question. What do you want to do at work? What do you enjoy? What are your clients and your customers like? So in my early stage, I would take any customer, I would take any client for any amount of money, right? I always joke that if somebody came to me in my early 20s and said, I got $1 million with your name on it and I want to hire you, I would say, let me know when to start, right? As I've gotten older, my time and my stress levels, they've just gotten, very, very important, and I wouldn't take $1 million for a stress job if my life depended on it. So what are your clients and your customers like? Are you dealing with absolutely atrocious clients and customers? I started a business where I dealt with clients and customers that I necessarily didn't like so much. And guess what I did with that business? It didn't fit with my path, as I like to say, my clear path, and I sold that business. The clients that I dealt with, I didn't enjoy working with. I didn't enjoy having them on the phone. I didn't enjoy seeing their snarky emails, and so I nipped it in the bud. And that's the power when you design your own destinies. You can say, guess what, clients, you're fired. And I did that, sold the business for a profit, and I don't have to deal with them anymore. So that's cool. What is your relationship like? Are you married? Are you single? Do you have a partner? How does that partner help you out? Is it somebody that's going to help you with your business? My wife and I, we talk strategy together. It's amazing. She is a stay-at-home mom. It's part of the path that I created. My wife was a nurse. I could not have my wife be a nurse and live the life that I wanted. I couldn't get up and go with my 7-year-old son like I could if she had nurse duties. So part of the path that I created was I said, I've got to get her to stay at home if she wants to. She agreed, and so now she stays at home, and with a snap of my fingers, we can be on a plane to Florida tomorrow, right? So what is your relationship like right now? What do you envision? Again, if my wife was a very devoted nurse and she didn't want to quit that job, that could be a problem, like if we wanted to get up and go to Florida and she was a lawyer, and so these are all thoughts that you really have to think out, and no one teaches you this in school. Nobody talks about these drill down questions like this, and so it's really important for you to do this. The younger, the better. What do you do for family time? Again, my business partner and my best friend Todd and I, we talk about family time all the. It's the most important thing, our time. I talk about this all the time as well. So my business partner Todd, when he worked at the dealership, he would call me when he was driving to work at 9 a.m. in the morning, and he would call me at 11 p.m. when he was getting home. We had the opportunity to get him to come in and sell for us and become a COO for our company, and now he literally will text me on Saturday saying, I can't thank you enough for giving me that window of opportunity, and I'm at Logan's game today. That to me is paramount. What are you doing for family time? Is family time important to you? What's the old Godfather saying? I don't know it right now, but if you don't make time for your family, then guess what? You're no real man at all. Something like that, right? Does that hit home for you? It certainly does for me. All right, so talking about home, what would you have for dinner? Are you driving home from the office, or is your office upstairs, right? I've had both. I have an office now. We have a full agency. We have the whole top floor. But I also had my office 15, 20 steps away from my bedroom. So, what I had for dinner, I'd smell my wife cooking dinner. It was awesome. It was really, really hard, though, to work from home, and have my office and delegate tasks and, make time for clients when the FedEx man's ringing, when the dogs bark, and I stayed at home with my son. He was crying, and I'm trying to. So that's tough. Can you do it? Do you want to do that? Would you love to stay home from an office and work from your home office and smell the dinner being cooked? What are you having for dinner? So think about it. Where would you eat? All right, so let's talk about dinner now, right? We're going out with our friends. What are you going out to eat? Where are you going? Are you going to high-end sushi joints? Are you going out to Ruth's Chris with your pals? Envision that. Where are you going? What would you do at night? You're done. You're going home to crash at night. So I know my business partner, I keep talking about him, Todd, we're best friends. So when he's driving home at night, he loves long office hours. He loves seeing the success of a business. He's driving home, and I guarantee he's plotting the next day's business, thinking about his family. His dinner's probably waiting for him. That's what he does. I leave the office about 4 or 5. I drive home, and I think about the next day's work. I think about if I'm coaching that night for my son's baseball team. And when I get home, I usually crash and zone out. I've created my family by design. I've created my work and my home life by design. So when I go home at night, it is exactly what I always wanted to do, which are things that I want to do. So, and again, this is not bragging. We have a lawn service. We have people do things that I necessarily don't want to do, and it's just by design. So when I go home, I know that I don't have to do things necessarily that I don't want to do. My neighbor's a go-getter. He owns a giant audio video, so I'll go crash with him. We'll have a little happy hour. The girls will sit out by the pool. It's by design, guys. It is not by luck. It is not by me having a windfall. It is all by design. And again, it's business, it's personal, it's relationships, it's all by design. What would your thoughts be as you crash that night to go to bed? And now I'm going to leave you with that, right? Because you're preparing for the next morning. So with that said, that kind of is the blueprint, and that is your perfect average day. And it was taught to me by Frank Kern. Love that guy. And it really makes you think what you're going to do, makes you think out your process, and it really makes you dive deep into those questions. And again, I've lived it. It works when you think about it, right? And you plot out your course. So these questions, if you didn't notice, they're all based on desired experiences, right? They're not goals or things. So I'm not saying when you drive home with your Lamborghini, how fast are you going to drive home? Or when you get to your French country $3 million home, you're going to run your Segway through it. Those are all things that can be attained from doing what you love and working with things that you enjoy doing. So if you're a doctor or a lawyer and you don't, and I mean, I can't tell you, so we have so many restaurateurs that have been given that job by design. They've been the successor. Their father passed away and they now have the job of being a restaurateur. Majority of them, not saying all, are miserable. So when they go home at night, they're miserable. They can't stand the delegation, or maybe they don't like it. They were just born into that, and that's all they do. So they're not really happy, right? So again, that is not, people from the outside may see that they have the car that they like and may have the house, but those people may not be happy. The same people, or maybe going to law school, who are lawyers. We get so many people that call up and are lawyer clients, and they're miserable. They're going home at midnight, and they're just not going home to their ideal life. So if you ask these questions, it's really going to help create your ideal life. And if you have your ideal life, you're going to do things that you love. And it's going to get you to those things. We always talk about things, the Lambos, the nice house, right? But here's the other side of that story. Once you get those things, then you have a responsibility. Then you have to get to that next level. You buy that, $300,000 Aventador, and you get that $3 million, stone mansion in the Hollywood Hills, and then you're paying the taxes, you're paying Uncle Sam, and then you've got to deliver that value. So for me, stress is a huge thing that I'm constantly thinking about. So do I want that $6 million in overhead, and do I want the stress that comes along with it? No, I don't, right? So for me, it's a constant juggle. Am I comfortable with what I'm doing, with the things that I have, and is the stress and the experience worth it? The way I always describe it is, I want a stress-free life of abundance, right? Stress-free is the key word. If I'm driving home that Aventador, going home to my $6 million mansion, right? But I have 7 lawsuits against me. If I'm being sued from 4 employees, and if I'm just struggling to survive, that's no life for me. It's not worth it whatsoever. So again, those are the things that go through my head. These are the things that I would love to instill in you. If you sit down and you think about it, it's going to change your life 1,000%. So I hope you didn't think that was hokey. I really hope you take it serious, and I hope you enjoyed that because to me, it is the core of my life, and it's how I created, my life and how I do the things that I want to do. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you later. Thank you.